everyone, welcome to DIY with Nancy. Today I'm going to share my recipe for Portuguese Molotof. And Portuguese Molotof, essentially all it is, it's a meringue cake or pudding cake, some people call it. And it's made out of granulated sugar and egg whites. And you form it into a meringue, place it in the cake pan, bake it in the oven, and then you can top it with some caramel, which I'm gonna show you the recipe for the caramel today. Or you can also top it off with an egg cream, which I also have a recipe for the egg cream on DIY with Nancy, and I'll drop the link in the description down below for the egg cream. So I hope you stay with me today to watch how to make Portuguese Molotof step by step. For the first step, I'm going to start off by making the caramel for the Molotof. And I'm going to place 1 cup of granulated sugar in a medium-sized saucepan. Once I have the sugar in the saucepan, I'm going to turn the heat on to a medium heat, and I'm going to wait until my sugar starts to caramelize. And I'm going to keep an eye on it because I want to make sure my caramel doesn't burn. Very important. Now, as you can see, my sugar is caramelized. It took about 7 to 8 minutes for this process. And now moving on to the next step. At this point, I'm going to add a 1/3 cup of water. I'm going to place that into the saucepan, and I'm going to consistently stir it for about 30 to 45 seconds. And once I've completed the stirring process, I'm going to turn off the stove, and I'm going to immediately transfer the caramel into my cake pan. Now here, I'll be using my 10-inch cake pan for the Molotof. Now that the caramel is ready, I'm going to immediately transfer it into the cake pan. Now for the next step, you can see all I did is poured the caramel in the bottom of the cake pan. And what I'm going to do is I have a little bit more here. I'm going to pour it into the pan. And then what I'm going to do is just start sort of turning the pan so I can get a little bit of the caramel on the edges as well. All right, I have the caramel in the cake pan, and we're going to move on to the next step. For the next step, I'm going to use my stand mixer to make the meringue, and I'm going to start off with 10 egg whites. And I used large eggs for this recipe. Okay, now I've added my whisk attachment. I'm going to place the mixer on a high speed and wait until the egg whites form a medium to firm peak. Now my egg whites are at a medium peak, and I'm going to gradually add 10 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Now as I'm adding the sugar, I have the mixer on a medium speed. Once I have the sugar incorporated into the meringue, I just add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract for flavor. Now at this point, I place my mixer on a high speed and wait until the meringue reaches a firm peak. And my meringue should be ready. I'm looking for a firm peak, and there I have it. It's exactly what you're looking for. So let's move on to the next step. For the next step, I'm simply going to transfer the meringue into the pan. And I'm going to fill it right to the top. And next, I'm just smoothing out the meringue on the top of the pan to give it a smooth finish. Now, this can be a messy process, and I'm just cleaning the edges of the cake pan before I place it in the oven. Now, for the next step, I'm just giving the pan a few taps to remove any air pockets in the meringue. Now, before I place the Molotof in the oven, I'm going to place it in a oven-safe tray that's deep enough to place at least 4 to 5 cups of hot boiling water to form a water bath while it's baking in the oven. Now my oven is preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's baking time. I'm going to place my Molotof in the oven. I'm going to bake it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Now, once my 20 minutes are up, so I'm placing it in the oven right now to bake. I'm going to let the 20 minutes go by. The timer's going to go off. When the timer goes off, I'm going to turn off my stove, and then I'm going to prop the door open slightly and let the Molotof stay in the oven for an additional 15 minutes. Now at this point, my Molotof is ready and baked. 20 minutes have passed. I've turned off the stove, and I'm letting the Molotof rest in the oven for 15 minutes while the oven door is slightly open. My Molotof is out of the oven. I'm going to remove the water bath and let the Molotof rest until it's completely cooled, at which point I will then flip it onto my cake plate. My Molotof is completely cool. All I've done is use the paring knife to loosen up the Molotof on the top of the cake pan. And now let's move on to the next step. Now I'm going to flip the Molotof onto the cake plate. And all I'm going to do is take the cake plate, place it on top, quick flip, and I had a little bit of spillage. It's okay, I still have a lot of caramel. And here it is, my Molotof. It's perfect. After all, it is a caramel Molotof, so I'm going to drizzle some extra caramel right on top. My Molotof meringue cake is ready to be served. It's light, airy, and super delicious, and of course, easy to make. Now that's how I make my Portuguese Molotof, which is a meringue cake. It's light and airy, so delicious, easy to make. And I'm gonna cut into it. We've got a slice here. And I have some extra caramel, which I'm just going to place onto the plate. And take a slice here. Look at that. Place it right onto my cake plate. And you know what? I'm actually gonna put a little bit more of the caramel on top. It's so delicious. I've used up all my caramel. And now for the taste test. So airy, delicious, not crazy sweet. It's just really, really good. Now, just a few little tips. When I place it in the oven, I place it in the oven for about 20 minutes. I place it in the medium, or actually the middle rack rather. And once the 20 minutes, so I had my timer go off after 20 minutes, I shut off the oven and I left the Molotof stay in the oven. When it's in the oven and it bakes, it expands and it sort of goes over the pan sometimes. And then I just want to give it time to just set. Then I take it out of the oven, place it on the stove or just on the side to let it cool. I leave it for another 15 minutes or so. And then at that point, I flip it, place it on a cake plate, place some extra caramel, and voila, you have a Portuguese Molotof with caramel. I hope you all enjoyed the recipe today. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Take care.